After 5 years of working in America to build a better future, Daniel stepped off the plane with dreams of reuniting with his family. But the moment he walked through his front door, he witnessed a scene that would burn into his mind forever. His wife Maya was sitting comfortably on the couch, her feet resting on his mother's back as if she were a footstool, casually scrolling through her phone while his elderly mother knelt on the floor like a dog. In that single frozen moment, Daniel's entire world shattered. What his wife had done to his own mother in those 5 years would haunt him for the rest of his life. Before we dive into this devastating story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't believe the depths of cruelty revealed in this tale. Trust me, this story will leave you speechless and change how you think about trust and family. Now, let's begin from where it all started. Daniel was a simple man with simple dreams. He wanted to provide a comfortable life for his wife Maya and take care of his aging mother Patricia. But in their small town, opportunities were limited, and no matter how hard he worked, he could barely make ends meet. His mother was getting older, her health was declining, and she needed proper medical care. His wife Maya deserved a better life than what he could offer with his local job. Every night, Daniel would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how he could change their situation. Then one day, an opportunity knocked on his door. His cousin, who lived in America, called him with news of a job opportunity. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid well. Much better than anything he could find at home. The catch was simple but painful. He would have to leave for at least 5 years to make it worthwhile. 5 years away from his wife, 5 years away from his mother, 5 years of sacrifice for a lifetime of comfort. Daniel discussed it with his family. His mother Patricia, despite her age and health issues, encouraged him. She held his hands in her wrinkled ones and said, with tears in her eyes, that she wanted to see him succeed before she left this world. Maya, his wife of 3 years, seemed supportive too. She hugged him and promised that she would take care of his mother like her own. She promised that everything would be fine, that 5 years would pass quickly, and they would build a beautiful future together. With a heavy heart but hopeful spirit, Daniel made the decision. He would go to America, work hard, save every penny, and return to build the life they all deserved. The day he left was one of the hardest days of his life. His mother cried at the airport, holding on to him like she might never see him again. Maya stood beside her, wiping tears from her own eyes, promising once more that she would take care of everything. Daniel hugged his mother tightly, kissed her forehead, and whispered that he would be back soon with enough money to give her the comfortable life she deserved. America was not the land of easy dreams that people imagined. Daniel worked 2 jobs, sometimes sleeping only 4 hours a night. He washed dishes at a restaurant during the day and worked as a security guard at night. His tiny apartment was barely bigger than a storage room, but he didn't care. Every dollar he saved was a dollar closer to his dream. Every month, without fail, he sent money home. Money for his mother's medicines, money for household expenses, money to start building a small house where they could all live comfortably. The first year was the hardest. Daniel missed home so much that some nights he would cry alone in his small room. He would look at the photo of his mother and Maya that he kept on his bedside table, and it would give him strength to continue. But he found comfort in his weekly video calls with Maya and his mother. Every Sunday, he would call home, and seeing their faces on the screen would recharge his spirit for another week of hard work. His mother would always smile at him through the screen, telling him she was fine, that Maya was taking good care of her, that he shouldn't worry and should focus on his work. Maya would talk about the house plans, about how the construction was coming along, about the neighbors and small town gossip. She would show him around the house, everything looking clean and proper. Everything seemed perfect. Everything seemed like it was going according to plan. Daniel felt proud that he had made the right decision. His sacrifice was worth it because his family was happy and secure. He worked like a machine, taking every extra shift available, saving every possible penny. He stopped buying new clothes for himself, ate the cheapest food he could find, never went out for entertainment. Everything was for his family back home. Sometimes his co-workers would invite him out, but he would always refuse, thinking about his mother and wife waiting for him. He would tell his friends that he was building a future, that temporary comfort meant nothing compared to the permanent happiness he was creating for his loved ones. But as the second year rolled into the third, Daniel started noticing small changes. The video calls became shorter. Maya seemed distracted, often ending the conversation quickly with excuses about being busy or tired. His mother, who used to talk enthusiastically about her day, became quieter. She would smile, but the smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. There was something different about her, something Daniel couldn't quite put his finger on. Her face looked thinner, her eyes looked tired, and there was a sadness that she tried to hide but couldn't completely mask. Whenever he asked if everything was okay, Maya would jump in quickly and answer for his mother. She would say that his mother was just tired, that old age was catching up, that there was nothing to worry about. She would move the camera away from Patricia quickly, showing him other parts of the house instead. Daniel wanted to believe her. He needed to believe her because he was thousands of miles away and couldn't do anything even if something was wrong. In the third year, the changes became more obvious. His mother's appearance on video calls became rare. Sometimes weeks would pass without him seeing her face. Maya always had an excuse ready. She was sleeping, or not feeling well, or had gone to a neighbor's house, or simply didn't want to be on camera. When Daniel would insist, Maya would become irritated, asking him if he didn't trust her. She would guilt him by saying that she was doing everything alone while he was enjoying life in America, and the least he could do was trust her. Daniel felt torn. Part of him sensed something was terribly wrong, but another part felt guilty for doubting his wife. After all, she had stayed behind, taking care of his elderly mother, managing the household, all while he was far away. Maybe he was being paranoid. Maybe the distance was making him imagine problems that didn't exist. He convinced himself to trust Maya, to believe that everything was fine. In the fourth year, things became even stranger. His mother stopped appearing on video calls altogether. The few times Maya did show her, Daniel was shocked by how much his mother had aged. She looked weak, her clothes seemed old and worn out, and she barely spoke. When he asked her direct questions, she would just nod or give one-word answers. Her eyes would dart nervously toward Maya, as if seeking permission to speak. Daniel's heart would sink every time he saw that look, but Maya would quickly end the call, saying his mother needed rest. Daniel tried calling at different times, hoping to catch his mother alone, but Maya always answered. He tried calling the neighbors, but the numbers had changed or they didn't answer. It was as if Maya had isolated his mother completely. The unease in Daniel's heart grew stronger with each passing month, but he felt helpless. He was so far away, and confronting Maya over the phone only led to arguments where she would accuse him of not trusting her after everything she was doing for his family. 5 years passed like a slow torture, but finally, the day came. Daniel had saved enough money. He had worked himself to exhaustion, but it was worth it. He had enough to finish the house, to pay for his mother's medical expenses for years to come, and to start a small business back home. He could finally return to his family and end this painful separation. He decided to surprise them. He didn't tell Maya or his mother about his return date. He imagined their faces when he would walk through the door. He imagined his mother's tears of joy, Maya's excited embrace. During the entire flight home, he couldn't stop smiling, despite his exhaustion. After 5 long years of sacrifice, working 2 jobs, living in a tiny room, eating cheap food, and spending every moment away from his family, he was finally going home. He had dreams of how they would celebrate, how they would plan their future together, how his sacrifices would finally pay off. The taxi dropped him off at his house late in the evening. The neighborhood looked the same, familiar and comforting. But as he approached his front door, something felt off. The house looked darker than it should be. The small garden his mother used to maintain looked overgrown and neglected. There were no sounds of life, no warm lights welcoming him home. His heart started beating faster as he pulled out his key and unlocked the door as quietly as possible, wanting to surprise them. The moment he stepped inside and turned toward the living room, Daniel's heart stopped. The scene before him was so shocking, so horrifying, that for a moment he thought he was hallucinating. Time seemed to freeze as his mind struggled to process what his eyes were seeing. There was Maya, sitting comfortably on the couch, wearing expensive clothes that he had never seen before, jewelry sparkling on her wrists and neck. She was casually scrolling through her phone, completely relaxed. But what made Daniel's blood run cold was what he saw beneath her. His mother, Patricia, was on her hands and knees on the floor, positioned like a dog. And Maya had both her feet resting on his mother's back, using her like a human footstool, as if she were nothing more than a piece of furniture. Patricia's body was trembling under the weight. Her arms were shaking, barely able to support herself and Maya's feet. She was wearing old torn clothes that looked like rags. Her hair was messy and unwashed. Daniel could see her ribs protruding through the thin fabric. She looked like she had aged 20 years in just 5. Her face was turned toward the floor, accepting this humiliation as if it had become normal, as if her spirit had been completely broken. The casual cruelty of the scene was what hurt the most. Maya wasn't angry or upset. She was simply relaxed, scrolling through social media, chatting with friends on her phone, completely comfortable with using another human being, an elderly woman, Daniel's own mother, as a footrest. There was no guilt on her face, no awareness that what she was doing was monstrous. It was just another ordinary evening for her. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway, unable to move, unable to speak. His bags dropped from his hands, hitting the floor with a loud thud. The sound made both women look up. Maya's face went from relaxed to shocked in an instant. Her phone slipped from her hands, but it was his mother's reaction that broke Daniel's heart into pieces. Patricia looked up at him, and in her eyes he saw not relief or joy, but pure terror. She was afraid of what would happen now that he had seen the truth. For what felt like an eternity, but was probably just seconds, nobody moved, nobody spoke. The three of them were frozen in this horrible tableau. Then Patricia started crying, silent tears rolling down her hollow cheeks. Her whole body began shaking, not just from the physical strain, but from the emotional release of 5 years of suffering. Maya quickly pulled her feet away and stood up, her mouth opening and closing, but no words coming out. Daniel finally found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. He asked what was happening, but he already knew. Deep down, he had known something was wrong for years. All those short phone calls, all those excuses, all those times his mother looked scared on video. It all made sense now. He had just been too far away, too trusting, too hopeful to see the truth. Maya tried to speak, tried to make excuses, but Daniel held up his hand to silence her. He walked slowly to his mother, his legs feeling like they could give out at any moment. He knelt beside her, gently helping her up from the floor. Patricia couldn't stand on her own. Her legs had gone numb from kneeling for so long. Daniel had to support her entire weight as he carefully guided her to sit on the couch. The same couch where Maya had been sitting moments ago, using his mother as a footstool. Up close, the damage was even more horrifying. Patricia's wrists had marks on them, old bruises that had faded but left their stain. Her hands were rough and cracked, the hands of someone who had been doing heavy labor without any care. Her feet were swollen. Her face was gaunt, cheekbones jutting out sharply. When she tried to speak, Daniel noticed several of her teeth were missing. She looked like a prisoner of war, not someone who had been living in her own home with family. Daniel brought her water with shaking hands. He sat beside her, holding her frail hand, and asked her to tell him everything. Patricia looked at Maya, fear evident in her eyes. Maya stood there, arms crossed, a defiant look on her face. Daniel told his mother not to be afraid, that he was here now, that nothing would happen to her. Only then did Patricia begin to speak, her voice barely above a whisper, broken by sobs. The story that came out was worse than anything Daniel could have imagined. For the first month after Daniel left, Maya had indeed been kind. She had taken care of Patricia, and everything seemed fine. But slowly, the mask began to slip. It started with small things. Maya would make Patricia do small chores, saying she was young and needed rest from household work. Patricia didn't mind helping. She was happy to contribute. But soon, small chores became all chores. Patricia found herself cooking, cleaning, washing clothes, doing everything while Maya relaxed. When Patricia tried to suggest that they share the work, Maya became angry. She said that Daniel had left her alone to deal with an old woman, and she wouldn't be a servant in her own house. From that day, Patricia became the servant. The food situation became a nightmare. Maya would cook delicious meals for herself, but give Patricia only stale bread or leftover rice from days ago. Sometimes Patricia wouldn't get food for an entire day. Maya would say that old people don't need much food, that Patricia was wasting Daniel's hard-earned money by eating. Patricia already suffering from diabetes and blood pressure issues, became weaker and weaker. Her medicines ran out, and Maya refused to buy new ones, saying they were too expensive. But the physical abuse was nothing compared to the emotional and psychological torture. Maya discovered that she enjoyed having complete power over someone. She started making Patricia kneel on the floor for hours. At first, it was while she ate dinner, making Patricia watch her eat while staying on her knees. Then it became longer. Sometimes Patricia would have to kneel from morning till evening, only allowed to stand when her legs completely gave out. Then Maya started the footstool punishment. Whenever she wanted to relax on the couch, she would call Patricia and make her get on all fours. Maya would place her feet on Patricia's back and browse her phone, watch television, or chat with friends for hours. If Patricia's arms or legs trembled from exhaustion, Maya would press down harder with her feet, or sometimes kick her, telling her to stay still. This wasn't a one-time incident. This had become a daily routine. Every single day for almost 4 years, Patricia had been used as human furniture. The small dark room that Daniel had found was where Maya had moved Patricia after the first year. She said the old woman didn't deserve a proper bedroom. The room had no ventilation, no proper light. Patricia slept on a thin mattress on the floor with a single ragged blanket, even during cold winter nights. The room was next to the bathroom, and the smell was terrible, but Patricia had no choice. She wasn't allowed to come out except to do her chores or to be Maya's footstool. When Patricia fell sick, which happened often due to malnutrition and stress, Maya refused to take her to the doctor. She would lock Patricia in that dark room and leave her there, sometimes for days. Patricia would cry alone, in pain, hoping that somehow her son would sense her suffering and come back. But Daniel never came. The video calls were Patricia's only connection to her son, and Maya made sure to control even those. Before every video call, Maya would threaten Patricia. She would tell her that if she said even one word about her suffering, if she cried or looked sad, Maya would beat her after the call. She would deny her food for days. She would make her life even more miserable. So Patricia had no choice but to smile, to lie, to pretend everything was fine while dying inside. She watched her son's hopeful face on the screen, heard him talk about his dreams and plans, and couldn't tell him that his wife was a monster, that she was suffering unimaginable torture every day. Maya had also been stealing all the money Daniel sent. She told Patricia that the money was being used for house construction and expenses, but in reality, Maya was living like a queen. New clothes, expensive jewelry, regular visits to salons and spas, dining out with friends, everything Daniel's hard-earned money could buy. She had even bought herself a new car. The house that was supposed to be built remained just a dream. Every penny Daniel sent was spent on Maya's comfort while his mother starved and suffered. As months turned into years, Patricia gave up hope. She stopped expecting rescue, stopped believing her life would get better. She accepted her fate as less than human, as an object for Maya's use. Her spirit was so broken that she had started believing she deserved this treatment, that maybe she was truly a burden, truly worthless. The vibrant, loving woman who had raised Daniel with so much care and sacrifice had been reduced to a scared, broken shell. Daniel sat frozen as his mother spoke, tears streaming down his face. Each word was like a knife to his heart. He looked at Maya, who stood there with her arms still crossed, not showing a single sign of remorse. In fact, there was something almost proud in her expression, as if she was challenging him to judge her. When Patricia finished her story, exhausted from reliving her trauma, Daniel gently helped her lie down on the couch. He covered her with his jacket because she was shivering despite the warm evening. Then he stood up and faced Maya. His hands were clenched into fists, not from a desire to hurt her, but from trying to control the rage and disgust flowing through him. He asked her the only question that mattered. Why? Why did she do this to a helpless old woman who had welcomed her into the family with open arms? Why did she torture his mother, who had never done anything wrong to her? Why did she become such a monster? Maya's response was somehow even more shocking than the torture itself. She didn't apologize. She didn't cry or beg for forgiveness. Instead, she looked at him with cold eyes and said she had every right to do what she did. She said she didn't marry him to become a nurse for his old mother. She said Patricia had tried to tell her how to cook, how to clean, how to run the house in the beginning, and she simply put the old woman in her place. She admitted everything without a hint of shame. The starvation, the beatings, the emotional abuse, making Patricia kneel for hours, using her as a footstool, stealing all his money, everything. She said Daniel was a fool for trusting her, a fool for leaving, and now a fool for judging her. She said she had done what she wanted because she could, because there was no one to stop her, because his mother was weak and helpless. Maya even laughed when she saw Daniel's horrified expression. She said he had been so easy to manipulate with those video calls. She said she enjoyed seeing him work like a dog in America while she lived comfortably, torturing his precious mother. She said the best part was using his own money to fund her comfortable life while his mother suffered. Every dollar he sent thinking it was helping his family was actually being spent on Maya's pleasures while Patricia starved. She told him about the jewelry she bought, the expensive restaurants she visited, the shopping trips with friends, all funded by his sacrifice. She told him how she would sometimes make Patricia watch her eat expensive food just to torture her more. She told him how she enjoyed the power, the control, the ability to make another human being completely submissive to her will. There was something deeply wrong with Maya, something evil that Daniel had never seen or imagined existed. Daniel felt like his soul had been ripped out of his body. The woman standing in front of him was not the Maya he had married. Or maybe this was always who she was, and he had been too blind to see it. All those years of sacrifice, all those sleepless nights working 2 jobs, all that hard work and loneliness, all those dreams of a happy family, it had all been feeding a nightmare. He had broken his body working in America, living in poverty, saving every penny, and for what? To fund his mother's torture. His absence, his trust, his sacrifice had enabled 5 years of unimaginable cruelty. If he had stayed home, if he had been less trusting, if he had listened to his instincts when things felt wrong, his mother wouldn't have suffered. The guilt was crushing him, making it hard to breathe. He looked at his mother, now sleeping fitfully on the couch, her body twitching even in sleep, probably reliving her trauma. She had given birth to him, raised him with love and care, sacrificed her own comfort for his education and future. And how had he repaid her? By leaving her in the hands of a monster, by choosing money over her safety, by trusting a woman he barely knew over his own instincts. Maya was still talking, still justifying her actions, still showing no remorse. Daniel couldn't bear to hear her voice anymore. He told her to leave, get out of his house and never come back. Maya laughed again. She said this was her house too, that she had every legal right to stay. But something in Daniel's eyes must have scared her, because her laughter died. For the first time, she saw the depth of his rage, his pain, his disgust. She grabbed some of her things and left that night, slamming the door behind her. But not before threatening him. She said she would fight for her rights as his wife, that she would make his life difficult, that he would regret confronting her. Daniel didn't care. He would deal with whatever legal battles came. Right now, all he cared about was his mother. The days that followed were the hardest of Daniel's life. He took Patricia to the hospital, where doctors were shocked by her condition. She was severely malnourished, anemic, had untreated diabetes, high blood pressure, and multiple vitamin deficiencies. Her body showed signs of repeated physical trauma. The doctors asked if she had been held captive somewhere. In a way, she had been, a prisoner in her own home. Treatment began immediately, but the physical wounds were easier to heal than the psychological ones. Patricia would wake up screaming from nightmares. She would flinch whenever someone approached her. She couldn't eat properly because her stomach had shrunk from years of starvation. She was afraid to sit on the couch, preferring to sit on the floor, because that's where she had been forced to stay for so long. Daniel had to feed her slowly, like a child, coaxing her to eat a little more each day. He had to hold her when she cried, which was often. He had to assure her repeatedly that Maya was gone, that she was safe now, that no one would hurt her anymore. But the damage was so deep that Patricia couldn't fully believe it. 5 years of torture had rewired her brain to expect cruelty, to accept abuse as normal. The legal process was its own nightmare. Maya fought the divorce, demanding money and property. She showed no remorse even in court, claiming she had taken care of his mother and deserved compensation. The case dragged on for months. Neighbors who had witnessed Patricia's condition testified. Medical reports were submitted. Finally, the court granted Daniel his divorce without any settlement to Maya. But even that small victory felt hollow. Daniel tried his best to help his mother recover. He cooked her favorite foods, bought her new clothes, moved her to a bigger, brighter room with windows and fresh air. He took her to therapy to help with the psychological trauma. He spent every moment trying to make up for the 5 years of hell she had endured. But some things cannot be undone. Patricia's health improved slowly. She gained some weight, her medicines were regulated, her physical wounds healed. But the psychological scars remained. She would still have panic attacks. She would still cry in her sleep. She would still sometimes kneel on the floor, out of habit, before Daniel would gently help her up, reminding her that those days were over. The guilt Daniel carried was a weight that would never lift. Every time he looked at his mother's face, he saw the cost of his choices. Every time she flinched or looked scared, he remembered that this was his fault. He had trusted the wrong person. He had left his mother vulnerable. He had chosen money and dreams over her safety. No matter how much he tried to make it up to her, he could never give her back those 5 years. He could never erase the trauma. He could never undo the damage. His dreams of a happy family, of a comfortable future built on his sacrifice, had turned into the darkest nightmare. The house he wanted to build was never built. The business he wanted to start felt meaningless. The future he had worked so hard for didn't exist anymore. All that remained was the painful present, the traumatic past, and the knowledge that the person he loved most in the world had suffered unimaginable cruelty because he had made the wrong choice. Daniel's story is a painful reminder that sometimes the people we trust the most can harbor the darkest cruelty. He sacrificed 5 years of his life, worked himself to exhaustion, lived in poverty, all to build a better future for his family. But his absence created an opportunity for evil to flourish unchecked. His wife, the woman who had promised to care for his mother, instead discovered a sadistic pleasure in torture and control. The image of his mother on her hands and knees, being used as a human footstool while his wife casually scrolled through her phone, is something that will haunt Daniel forever. It represents the ultimate betrayal, the complete destruction of trust, and the horrifying reality that evil can hide behind a loving face for years. This story teaches us crucial lessons about trust, family, and sacrifice. First, never leave your vulnerable loved ones completely alone with someone, even if that someone is your spouse. Trust must be verified, especially when someone's safety is at stake. Second, when your instincts tell you something is wrong, investigate thoroughly. Daniel ignored the warning signs for years because he wanted to believe everything was fine. Those ignored signs cost his mother 5 years of suffering. Third, some sacrifices are not worth making. Daniel thought he was building a better future by going to America, but he lost the present in the process. Money can be earned again, but lost time and suffered trauma cannot be recovered. Fourth, true character reveals itself when no one is watching. Maya's cruelty flourished in Daniel's absence because there were no witnesses, no accountability. Finally, the guilt of such a situation can be as damaging as the trauma itself. Daniel now lives with the knowledge that his choices, however well-intentioned, led to his mother's torture. That guilt will stay with him forever, a constant reminder of the cost of misplaced trust. What would you do in Daniel's situation? How do you forgive yourself for such a devastating mistake? Should he have seen the signs earlier? Could this nightmare have been prevented? These are questions that haunt not just Daniel, but anyone who hears this story. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart or opened your eyes to the hidden cruelty that can exist in families, please like this video and share it with others. Sometimes, sharing these difficult stories can prevent similar tragedies. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because these real-life stories carry important lessons we all need to hear. Remember, protect your loved ones, verify your trust, and never ignore the warning signs. Thank you for watching, and may you never have to face such a nightmare. See you in the next story.